Welcome to Behind the Whistle, the podcast and video cast of elite level referees and members of WWR, so that you can get a better understanding of who that person is behind the whistle. I am really excited today. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Whistle. We have the Vice President of WWR, Dion Willis, all the way from South Africa, but I'm going to let him introduce himself and all the details of what makes him such a special member of WWR. Dion, welcome to Behind the Whistle. Give us the snapshot of what makes Dion Willis the referee that he is today.
First of all, hi, Stephen. Good to be with you. To answer your question, I think what for me was important was I was never going to be that international water polo superstar, but yet had a passion for the game. The question was, how do I stay involved after playing, whether it be at school or club? I was a passionate school and club player as in my junior years, and still had an interest in the game, although not making state sides or national sides, age group sides. I firstly got involved in the coaching side and eventually got involved with the national men's setup in around 2000.
Okay.
And then was on the men's training staff, coaching staff in Montreal in 2005. And that was my first taste of an international water polo tournament. And that's pretty much where my involvement started from an international perspective. From there it was Melbourne in 2007. And during that time, when the teams were warming up and in pre-game preparation, I was the one that was literally thrown in the proverbial deep end, take the whistle and whistle the scrummages.
So that was your introduction to officiating, huh?
At that level. So whether it was South Africa scrummaging against Australia, against Spain, whoever it may be that we were drawn to train with, I was the one that was officiating those scrummages.
Now, what does that look like on a lower level before you kind of expand too much on your international career? Did you officiate in South Africa on a local club level or anything of that nature? What does that look like for our viewers and our podcast listeners? As a referee in South Africa, how do you kind of come up the ranks to be able to go to another level that you're at now? Did you start officiating at clubs?
Well, how it actually started was I was living in Johannesburg at the time, and I was working with the likes of Guy Pinker.
Uh-huh.
And Guy was a renowned international referee at the time, him and Ian Melia. And Guy is the one who actually said to me, come and get involved. And he's the one who actually said, why don't you join me at a FEMA school? It might be something you enjoy. And he wrote me in, I think it was in 2007 or 8, to go to Manchester to attend a FEMA school. And that's how I ended up being on the FEMA list for South Africa in 2008, and received my first appointment, which was a junior women's world championships in Khanty-Mansiysk in Russia in 2009. So that's where it all started. But
wow.
to answer your question with regards local involvement, it was whistling local Saturday afternoon games between social teams, clubs wise, and then whistling at our local national tournament. And the first one that I actually officiated at, Gus arranged Torsten Bock from Germany to come out as a guest referee. And I had an opportunity and the privilege of whistling with Torsten.
That's fantastic.
That was the one opportunity. The other was, I think it was just after, if I'm not mistaken, Beijing and Shanghai, when WWR was first started. I think it was around that period. Gus invited Boris Magetta to come up to South Africa to literally introduce WWR to referees and to the polo community in South Africa. And at the same time, Boris was asked to officiate at a national schools tournament. And before I'd even whistled my first international game, I whistled with Boris the final at this schools tournament. So that's where my officiating started with Boris. back then.
That's amazing. For those of you that are listening or watching, and for those of you that don't know who Boris Margetta is, he is the president of WWR and still a very active and involved referee. And without him, WWR does not exist. But most recently, he just officiated World Championships, the final medal games. And what an intro that you have into officiating to be able to officiate with Boris as you basically come out of the gates. And how does that progression work then? So, basically you decide to become a referee, start reffing at the international level. And was it easy? I mean, did it come naturally, or is it some work?
Put it this way, I think it's pretty much like anything. The effort you put in is what you get out at the end of the day. So whistle as many games as you can to gain confidence, experience. Every game has its different nuances with what happens in the game that either is expected or unexpected, and you learn from those opportunities and experiences. First tournament in Russia, Khanty-Mansiysk, I thought, well, I'll arrive there and slowly see what happens, see who's whistling, how everything works, and I'll eventually get an appointment to whistle a game. Lo and behold, the very first game of the tournament was myself and Henk Smit from the Netherlands.
Yes.
So once again, thrown in the proverbial deep end, not knowing what to expect, but yet having to take it on the fly. But yes.
Well, you've done well. You've done very well with taking it on the fly.
I'm still here. Yes.
You're still here. You're still talking about it. And what's been amazing is that you've been so consistent for someone. And I think it's very inspiring for, we have countries in South America that struggle to have, a lot of referees be able to come to tournaments. South Africa is somewhat unique. And George on the podcast that hasn't been published yet, but he talks about specifically how South Africa is very unique because, the funds have to come from the athletes to be able to go to these events. And it's a very unique circumstance. And so to see a referee of your caliber have the success that you do, it speaks a lot of the sport of water polo and how much you personally have invested to become a good referee internationally and learn the game at a very high level. And that's very impressive. And I want to mention that to all of our viewers and our listeners, because it's possible, and I think, Dion, if you could just shed light on it, that if you set yourself a goal from a referee's perspective, if you want to be on the international list, I mean, I lost count at how many world championships you've been to so far now, but you've been to more than one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think I have been very fortunate, and I have many people to thank along the way for these opportunities, starting with the likes of Gus Pinker and Ian Melia, who were literally the pioneers of international whistling back in the day. Ian going to Sydney Olympics, the first South African in Olympics, at the same time the first to whistle a ladies' game ever. I think it was down in Australia. So he was definitely a pioneer in his own right. Gus the same. So yes, I've had them as one or two mentors along the way, and many other international referees. I think what is great is you make so many friends, and I realized that for the first time at my first event. Here you have 15, 20 odd referees coming from 15, 20 odd different countries. Into this melting pot of a common denominator being officiating water polo and sharing experiences. And what's been amazing over the years, and I've been involved whistling internationally for 13 years now, is you still maintain those friendships over the years, regardless of when last you saw them. So as an example, I haven't seen Andrew Carney since World Cup Women, I think in 2014, and saw him again for the first time in Budapest at World Championships. And it literally, we took off on conversation from literally where we left off in 2014, which was incredible. And I can say that for many other colleagues, including yourself. We were in Budapest in 2017 together.
Right, that's right.
We keep in touch and we keep in contact, and here we are sharing a podcast together, which is great.
That's fantastic. Well, I totally echo the sentiments that you have, that the referee community is forever united from the first moment that you meet our colleagues and until the future, even if we don't see each other regularly. Give me an example, though, at probably what is one of the most memorable moments for you as a referee in your career.
Well, I think what's incredible is that we have this unique opportunity to see the world at the end of the whistle. And some of us have traveled the globe to pretty much every continent and have had the opportunity to officiate at these tournaments. For me, memorable occasions, I think there's many, but I think for any referee, it's pretty much your first World Championships, for those that have the opportunity, your first Olympic Games, your first game you whistle there. I think regardless of who you are, there's always going to be that emotion, that build up of you've reached the pinnacle of officiating if you get appointed to an Olympic Games. I'm sure you felt the same when you were in London, Stephen, having that opportunity. So I think those two World Cups and that as well, whistling with the likes of George and Stavridis, Boris Magetta, Javi Buch from Spain, Michael Goldenberg from the US, just to mention a few, and a number of the ladies in that too. Marie-Claude Dessier from Canada is another example. But for me, I think having the privilege of whistling a semi-final at the Tokyo Olympics, as unique as it was with no spectators, was still probably the pinnacle of what I've achieved. Regardless of the other semi-finals at other tournaments and medal games, I think that to me sort of stands out as probably one of the most important memories or moments in my refereeing career.
I would agree with you, and that was awesome. And I was really excited for you when I saw that appointment, because I know how long you have worked and to rise and refine your craft as a referee. Now, let me ask you this: you come from a country that probably doesn't have as consistent of high level water polo, much like the United States. We have the university system here, but the European professional circuit's a little bit different. How do you prepare yourself as a referee to come from South Africa and then start reffing a FINA event in which maybe you haven't seen that level of play consistently all year long, and here you are just thrown into the deep end like you talk about it? Does it take you some time? How do you adjust?
I think going through that 18-month period of COVID lockdown was pretty much almost a taste of what the rest of the world experienced. Is literally what I experienced almost before any World Championships or big event, for the fact that our seasons are different.
Yeah.
So we're in winter now, Europe experiencing summer, there's a lot of water polo happening. So for us, our season finishes literally at the end of March. So there's no water polo other than maybe national camps on the odd occasion where there'd be an opportunity for me to officiate.
Right.
So literally physically standing on the side of the pool. What I can tell you is that if it wasn't for WWR's e-learning platform, I think I would really have struggled. For the fact that there are so many online tests and quizzes and Q&A sessions that you can have with a number of referees on that platform has definitely helped me immensely to maintain a level. What was amazing was when we had to go and officiate at the Olympic qualifiers in Rotterdam, and most of us hadn't whistled since Guangzhou in July 2019.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you are whistling Croatia, Romania, and you haven't whistled another game prior to when you whistled in Guangzhou. So, and that was the same for many of us. Some of the European referees at least whistled prior to that, but all of us outside of Europe, Michael Goldenberg for one, Fabio Toffoli from Brazil, myself and a couple of others. It was literally the first time since Guangzhou, which was 18 months.
That's amazing.
Since we actually whistled.
Yeah.
So it was daunting for for most of us. But I think it's like most things, you get into it. I honestly believe that your first quarter, you're probably a little slower
Right.
in making those decisions in your own mind. Not
Right.
that it might be visible, but by half time into the third, I think you're back up to speed. I'd like to think that, but that's the feedback you get in your feedback sessions after the game.
And you bring up a really good point. You said that you relied on WWR kind of during those down times and also continue through it. South Africa is really, really unique, and you are an integral part in this. Is that South Africa has the largest membership in WWR as far as members of referees that are part of the association. Explain to me from your perspective why that's such a critical thing to have your fellow countrymen who are officiating on the pool deck all over South Africa to be members of WWR and what that brings to the table for them.
If you look at what WWR's ethos and beliefs are with regards having a set standard and try and maintain that standard across the globe from an officiating perspective, I think it's difficult on its own to try and have that standard maintained amongst two referees on a pool deck, let alone across referees across the globe. But it's almost what we've created are study groups, and fortunately with technology, we've got WhatsApp groups and a whole lot of other things. And what we've done is every time there's a test or a quiz coming out, we do a copy paste as a group of that test, and we say we go through it as a collective. And we've done that across the states, the various provinces in South Africa. So we've set one up here in the Cape, one in Natal, KZN, one in Johannesburg, and in the Gauteng province. And that's how we interact with one another, we share, and even now with the amended rules that have been proposed by the technical committee, how do we roll those out? And that's pretty much using social media platforms to share that information, creating slides, explaining with video clips. So for me, I think that WWR's e-learning platform is immensely valuable for any referee, regardless of level, whether you're starting out or whether you're a top international referee. I think it's as rewarding for somebody at grassroots level as it is for somebody who's doing it internationally.
And that's just fantastic to hear. And could I just ask you, do you think it has helped the local referees within South Africa to better their game and be more consistent, let's say, across the board? I know that we, even here in the United States, we struggle to be consistent among all of our colleagues that we're all officiating the same way. Has WWR provided that avenue for your referees in South Africa?
I'd like to sort of use one of our lady referees, who's the only lady on our international FINA panel for South Africa. And I've been helping out Leanne Key for years, since she started picking up the whistle after being a national player here in South Africa. And introducing her to WWR, and believe me, she's a school teacher, so you can imagine it's learning, it's making sure that you're familiar with the rules. She went over now recently to Belgrade to whistle at the under-18 juniors or youth tournament.
Yes.
And what was incredible there was, to start with, from what I hear, she almost got 100% on the workshop test prior, which is great to hear. But what is even more rewarding, and I've been supporting her and watching her games, and I literally watched every one of them, and giving her feedback in that too, because it's something that she appreciates. I think refereeing can be quite lonely internationally. So I think you feed off your colleagues, whether they're at the tournament or at home. And what was amazing to see how she progressed through the tournament, whistling the top of the pool game, then a quarterfinal, then a semi-final, and then whistling the gold medal match in Belgrade last week at the youth under-18 girls final. So I think that on its own is testament of what WWR can do for referees development from grassroots, literally all the way through, and she can use this tournament as a springboard and platform to enhance her international career.
And she did a fantastic job. I watched the game, obviously for personal biased reasons, but she did a fantastic job, and it's so great to hear that the educational system and the tools that WWR can provide all of its members, and really we're providing, whether you're a member or not, but you get some inside things that members do have that WWR provides, and I think that's such a true testament to watch what she was able to do and to arrive in Belgrade and be consistent amongst all our colleagues solely through the platform that you guys are using in South Africa, which is based off the WWR system, and that's fantastic to see.
No, and the other thing is, she's a young mom with 2 kids. Her husband, captain, or I think was one of the oldest players at the Tokyo Olympics. He was close to 40. So, Polo's in the family's blood, but her commitment to the sport, to officiating, and in particular, familiarizing herself with the rules and applying them correctly is testament of what she's achieved at this past tournament. So I wish her well for the future, and I think that part of, not solely, you've got to thank WWR's educational platform and the work that they do behind the scenes and preparing these quizzes and tests is a testament to what she's achieved.
Oh, that's great. Well, I have a question for you. What's on the horizons for Dion Willis? What's going on? What's on the horizons that we can see and feel out and keep track of you over the next few months here?
Well, for us here back home, it's winter, it's cold, but that doesn't mean we're not busy. We have a winter league running. I'm currently busy with referees, clinics and courses. I'm flat out over this winter period, which is our quiet time, but quiet time in the sense of not being on the pool deck, but it's more in the classroom and in the auditoriums, assisting coaches and referees, updating them with rules. So all my experiences that I've had abroad, especially now coming back from Budapest, and the new amended rules that they're looking at implementing shortly, is what I'm tasked with at the moment, to make sure that all referees nationally across the board are up to speed and understand the rules, as well as preparing for a FINA certification school in October here in Cape Town. So we'll invite referees from around Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Namibia, Mozambique, to come and attend, as well as a group of our local referees. The other challenge we have here is to try and increase the number of female referees on our list, of which I have a couple in mind that I've mentored over the last season or so that might be ready to take that step.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I truly appreciate not only everything you've done for South African water polo and from where you started and where you're at right now, but as a fellow colleague from WWR, I want to thank you for all the time and energy that you put in for the success of WWR and for the sport of water polo, because without individuals like you, clearly we don't have an organization and an association to spread throughout the world to help all of our fellow referees. And we don't have the ability to watch successful referees come out of South Africa and have new colleagues and fantastic destinations to come and visit our fellow referees if we ever travel, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So where I'm living here in Cape Town, it's probably one of the nicest places in the world, and I've stayed in most places in South Africa. And to be honest, I think this is the purple patch of where it should be. But yes, a great place to visit. It's also the hub for water polo in the country. And yeah, we are hosting a tournament now in October. And next year we're looking at bringing international club sides. So maybe there's an opportunity for one of the club sides from the States to come over and join us here in the fairest Cape.
Oh, we'd love to. We'd love to. Well, Dion, I want to thank you and I appreciate your time. And do you have any parting words for our fellow members and listeners?
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences with the colleagues around the world, and to yourself for hosting the podcast. It's much appreciated. And to all those aspiring referees out there, if you have a dream, chase that dream, because believe you me, if you put in the effort, there's no reason why you can't achieve it. I certainly have. I am living that dream, and for me, it's been absolutely amazing. It's about giving back. So right now, it's giving back and making sure that there are referees after me to continue that legacy here in Africa and in South Africa.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Dion, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen.
For more information regarding the World Water Polo Referees Association, find us on the web at www.pra.org. There you can check out the latest news, information, and all of the education that WWR is providing on a global scale.